Attention, your paradigm is about to shift at the intersection of fact and reason. You're entering Kingston Country.
I'm Dan Kingston, and you're listening to the Dan Kingston Podcast. Fear. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Right now, people are afraid of other people. Even walking outside, avoid walking nearby somebody, afraid that the air droplets, the liquid droplets from someone walking by them will leap through the air and land inside their lungs. They are going to get infected and die from coronavirus. When we know that most people that get infected with coronavirus have minor or no symptoms, that most people don't die, most people don't even get sick. And yet, at least here in California, in the San Francisco Bay Area, people are afraid of other people. And I don't know when that mentality will change. I think we're seeing something happening here that's going to spread across the rest of the country. No, not coronavirus, but the fear caused by coronavirus. The fear and the panic that says, don't go anywhere. Don't walk outside. You could get infected. Be careful going to the grocery store. You're going to die. And not allowing us to have a common sense reaction, not based on fear, but based on statistics, that social distancing is going to slow the spread of the disease, that we could do social distancing in a responsible way without shutting down the entire economy and spurring a Great Depression or something even worse than the Great Depression. I mean, this has never been done before where you shut down an entire economy. And people right now seem to be in denial. Some people are angry. Some people have gone through those first two phases and now are in the grieving mourning process. That's where I am right now. At first I was in denial. I was angry. And now I'm mourning. I'm mourning our way of life. And I don't think, if you're over there in Texas or inland in the heart of the country, maybe this sounds overdramatic to you, but you haven't experienced the shelter-in-place orders and the lockdown and the job losses and the layoffs and all the closures yet, like we have in New York, in California, now Illinois. You're going to have more states turning to these draconian lockdown measures because we're being told it's the only way, and you have the constant fear porn in the mainstream media. Now, should you take precautions? Yes. Should you do social distancing? Yes. Even if you're in an area that hasn't been locked down yet. I'll tell you why. Because if you don't do these steps on your own, everything will get shut down in your community. I think that it didn't have to be this way. Many people let us down. Everybody let us down. From Trump all the way down to every local official. At least that's how I feel here in the San Francisco Bay Area. And I called my congressmen. I called my senators, although Dianne Feinstein, the lion just went dead. Everybody's mad at her for selling the stock. So I couldn't leave a voicemail with her. But I called mayors, I called city council members, I called everyone I could think of, and I'll keep doing it today, to let them know it didn't have to be this way, that businesses should have been allowed to present guidelines on how they could operate in a responsible way, enacting social distancing guidelines that would stop the spread, at least slow or prevent the spread of the disease. But instead, businesses weren't given an opportunity to present their plans to operate safely. We shut the door on capitalism. We shut the door on our way of life. And we expect things will just ramp back up. Well, the economy is like a big ship. And we had so much momentum. Suddenly, it stopped. We stopped the ship ourselves. We didn't figure out how to run the ship more slow in a safer direction, or maybe a more gradual pace. No, we just shut down all the movement. And it takes time to get that momentum back. Wouldn't you agree with that? You can't just start an economy from nothing and expect it to come roaring back. And right now, a lot of people are looking now at the economists, like I warned in the last podcast episode, is anybody listening to the economists? Well, now some people are, and it's dire. It's more dire than just a couple of days ago, and a few days from now, it'll be even more dire. Not the coronavirus, not the spread of coronavirus or the possibilities of hospitals being overrun. No. Yes, that's a concern. Yes, that will lead to death. But what you have now is a fear of economic catastrophe on the scale of which we've never known. That's looming right now. And businesses are going to revolt. I mean, you can't just close down the economy and for a few weeks, a few businesses, or the majority of businesses, at least in California, they're going to abide. But come April 9th, when the shelter in place is supposed to be lifted, although we know there'll be another one, another order for an extended lockdown for another 3 weeks and another 3 weeks. Well, some businesses are going to say, screw it, I'll take my chances. And we have to understand that they're going to just be faced with their survival. They're going to open back up again at the risk of anything. I mean, they're going out of business anyway. Why wouldn't they at least try to open back up? And when that happens, we better hope that they have been given guidelines to operate in a safe way, given the disinfectant, given masks, told to really respect the social distance guidelines. But if we don't get that ingrained in people's heads now, that there will be a day when businesses operate again, and that we need to operate in a new kind of smarter way. And we got to plant those seeds now. We can't wait. And we have to say, look, if you're operating a business inland in the heartland, operate in a responsible, safe way. Maybe you can prevent the shutdown of your community if you do enact these social distancing guidelines. It's up to all of us if we reopen, or we're allowed to reopen, or we just reopen anyway, that we do it in a responsible way so we can avoid martial law, so we can avoid this transmission of this disease and be forced to shut down again, maybe in an even more draconian way. Believe it or not. I mean, in Italy, for instance, they're not even allowed to leave their house to bury their own dead. Everybody says, don't be like Italy, don't be like Italy. Well, hell no, I don't want to be like Italy. It's a fascist society, really, at heart. Italy has an extreme amount of poverty, extreme number of Chinese that work in the Italian factories, poor Chinese immigrants that come directly from Wuhan. I think if we want to make a comparison, let's look to South Korea. South Korea is actually a first world country. They have a good medical system. And let's look at what's happening there, because it's not minor by any means. It's not to be discounted. It's not to say, oh, look, coronavirus, nothing to fear. No, we should be concerned by coronavirus. But right now we have to be more concerned with the economic ramifications, the economic catastrophe that's going to kill not hundreds of lives, but millions of livelihoods. And eventually, if you don't have a livelihood, then you don't have a life. Now, I heard that without a life, you can't have a livelihood. It works both ways. And you're just listening to the doctors, and the scientists, that there was no choice. We have to shut everything down. Well, maybe I wonder if they had studied economics in school, if they had studied art in school, if they had studied sociology and psychiatry, not just flesh and bones. Maybe they would think twice before recommending we shut everything down. but they're very cold. And we look up to them as gods. And because of that, the medical doctors themselves think of themselves as gods. But they're not. They're humans, and they can make mistakes too. And they really have to acknowledge the harm and the damage that's being caused right now because of the lockdown. Because that they said this is the only way to save Americans. And in fact, it could be just leading us off a cliff of despair, off a cliff that we'll never be able to come back from because the medical doctors don't understand how an economy works. They don't understand how people operate their souls. It's not just flesh and blood. People aren't just made up of bones. There's way more that connects society, that connects people. And I'm afraid that that's been lost. Now, will the draconian lockdown measures in place now in California, New York, Illinois, will they do more harm than good? I think most people say yes. I wonder, in pouring trillions into the stock market, should we have just poured trillions into infrastructure projects? But couldn't do that because nobody can safely go outside of their house. So just inject trillions right into the stock market. Like that's going to help. No, the stock market, I thought, is based on business. I mean, if business shuts down, what's the stock market based on anyway? I mean, of course, the stock market's going to keep tanking until you get the economy back up and running again. I'm not an economist. It's just common sense. If we poured the money into infrastructure or something, at least you'd get some real value out of it instead of just losing it to corporate buybacks or whatever the hell they do to squander the trillions. On another topic, who would have guessed in a million years toilet paper was going to be the weak link in our supply chain? You hear grocery store workers saying they're getting more toilet paper every day, and it goes. First thing that goes is toilet paper. What happens when everybody runs out of toilet paper? Have you run out of toilet paper, by the way? What are you using when you run out of toilet paper? Now, we're getting low on our supply, honestly, so it's a concern. Talk about what you should really be afraid of when you run out of toilet paper. What do? You get your toilet clogged, and right now maintenance workers at our apartment aren't doing maintenance, so I don't know. Get your toilet clogged, you're kind of screwed right now. Unintended consequences. Nobody's really thinking about the unintended consequences. And I don't know if it pisses you off when I say that we've been let down by every aspect of government, by every local official, by every federal official, by every state official, including Trump all the way down. We've been let down by everybody. And people are in denial. They're in denial. You go out for a walk and people have big smiles on their faces. Creepy smiles. Hi, hello. Isn't it a beautiful day outside? Well, it's creepy. It's a creepy day outside. Everything's quiet. You don't hear any construction or cars or anything. You just hear birds. You think it would be peaceful, but not when you're in a city. It doesn't feel right. Well, where do we go from here? I think most people are concerned by the economic catastrophe. More people are concerned about that than the Chinese flu. And for weeks they were saying, it's no more dangerous than the flu. Now they're saying it's bubonic plague. Now they're saying it's Ebola. Well, which is it? It's more dangerous than the average flu, yes. But for God's sake, it's not Ebola. It's not Ebola. And reports are today that the economy is deteriorating faster than anybody expected. And I'm sure tomorrow they'll see it's even worse than that. And yet the Democrats are giddy. And I've secretly always hoped for some kind of economic catastrophe for a moment like this. They've always wanted to start over. Heal the planet. The green new yada, yada, yada. Well, congratulations, Democrats and the far leftist communists, because you're getting your wish. A complete destruction of capitalism. Congratulations.
Kingston Country. You've been listening to the Dan Kingston Podcast.